Hello, everyone. Welcome to Spiritual Spotlight Series. Today, I am joined by Meera Ishaya. Meera is an Ishaya monk, author, and meditation teacher who specializes in helping people go beyond pain and suffering to experience peace, joy, fulfillment, and freedom. She has written two books, Peace or Pain, and Surrender is Good for the Soul. She also has a workbook to accompany Peace or Pain, soon to be published. Peace or Pain is a choice, and she shows people this is possible and how to make the choice. Surrender is a big part of the process because resistance causing suffering. And as a Ashaya monk, the Ascension Techniques she practices take you beyond the thinking mind to the direct experience of pure awareness. Thank you so much for coming on the Spiritual Spotlight Series. I'm so happy you're here.
Thanks, Rachel. Yeah, it's wonderful to be here. I'm really excited to chat with you.
I'm so excited. So, Meera, you describe a transcendent experience that profoundly changed your life. Can you maybe share more about this moment and how it influenced your path in becoming an Ashaya monk?
Oh, well, it was like the absolute foundation of it, really. I mean, it's not really a happy story as such, because like I decided I didn't want to live anymore. So I was actually going to attempt to take my life. So yeah, you probably weren't expecting that.
That's
But
okay. I
you know,
appreciate the vulnerability and the openness to share. Thank you.
Yeah, well, I think it's really important actually because like so many people are suffering, and I think actually an awful lot of the remedy to that is to just be seen and heard, to just be able to be open to discuss everything, and not have to. Because I think that's one of the ways I got so stressed was like adjusting everything I said, editing I ever said, and like trying to say the right thing and do the right thing, and it was exhausting.
Right.
But really, it was the long-term chronic pain I found myself in from a condition that I actually still have. Um, and yeah, I couldn't do it anymore. Like you can't even imagine how much pain I was in. There's probably some people out there who can, but
Absolutely.
when people say, what's the pain levels, and it was like 10 out of 10, just it wasn't. It's like 20 out of 10. Like it was
Right, right.
excruciating. And so yeah, I just couldn't do it anymore. And so yeah, I couldn't walk properly either. So I kind of was struggling along on crutches. Yeah, and I just dragged myself into the kitchen and grabbed a knife, and I was just gonna cut my wrist basically, but my husband caught me. He saw me, thankfully.
Wow.
And yeah, he was holding a young son in his arms. I can't remember how old he was, 2, 3, something like that. And yeah, he was obviously trying to talk me down, but I was just like done. I was just done. There was just
Yeah.
like I couldn't do it anymore. I was in so much pain. It just felt like nobody cared, and I mean that wasn't true, but that's what it felt like because
Of
something had just
course.
happened was disrespectful to me, which actually got remedied through realizing how seriously I was done and was on like when you get so overwhelmed and you're on maximum
Yes.
and one tiny thing just tips you over the edge. Well, it was
Yes.
like that really, and so in that moment, yeah, I it was like the worst moment of my life, and it still is the word, and nothing's ever got lower than that. It was my lowest point. Um, but in that moment, I think because I just so completely was done, there was a level of surrender in there. And then my son made this like little gurgle sound in his throat, and my eyes just flicked up straight into his eyes, and then it was just like the whole earth stood still, time stood still, and it was just like it just transported me into this immense, peaceful, endless. It was just like there was just nothing. It was a nothingness, but it was just so serene and still, yet vast and expansive. And yeah, it was just endless peace in that moment. And yeah, I'd never experienced anything like it. Like you talk about wanting peace and quiet, but this was like there was just no boundaries to the experience. And yeah, it was just incredible. And my husband saw, that my experience had utterly changed, as quickly as he dared, grabbed the knife off me. But I just at that point didn't care because I was just so serene and still, and it was just like a joy in there as well. Like it's just like everything you could ever want all rolled into one experience that you couldn't. That's why I call it transcendent, because it's just like you can't describe it even. Actually, it was an indescribable experience. And
Right.
for me, even when that started to fade a little bit, it's just like wow, like I can have this now at my lowest point in my life. Then pretty sure I could probably find that in everyday life. And so really that kind of became the opening point of a journey of exploration to go, right, what was that? and how do I replicate it? Maybe
Yeah,
even like 50%, is pretty cool.
I love
And so
that.
that's what I did. And yeah, shortly after that, I found the Ishayas, and that was really the beginning of my life again. Um, Letting me realize and know by demonstrating it from their own experience what was possible, and I could see it in their eyes, and I'm like, I don't know what that is, but I kind of do, and I want that, and so
Yeah,
yeah, I just went for it with all my heart, and I still do. I'm a practicing Ashaya, and I'm still as excited now as I was when I first realized that there was hope, that there was another way. I didn't have to live a life of suffering, and nobody does. And I kind of want to let other people know that, and not just as a theory, but as a direct, living experience. That's what learning the Ascension Techniques has given me and everyone I teach, with or without those techniques, actually, to actually access your natural operating mode. So it's like you have two operating modes in a way, and most of us are just in the thinking operating mode, but there's just one of presence.
yeah. And how
Yeah.
long ago was that?
So that experience, well, my son's 20.
Okay,
And
so it's quite a while ago.
a long, long time ago. Yeah. So
Wow.
yeah, so that happened. Yeah. So let's
Oh,
say 17 years ago,
right.
something like that. And then it was in 2010 that I found the Ishayas. So yeah, it was a few years. It wasn't straight away that I found
Right.
them, but when you kind of just you start finding things, and it's thing after, and just one experience opens up into another, and it was kind of like that really. And I think I found the Ishayas at the point in time where I'm like, I had these amazing workshops I was going to, but they were kind of like great, but they never lasted. So I was looking for the tangible experience to access, moment by moment in your everyday life, rather than just a lovely weekend. Great, recharges the batteries, but I want that in every moment. I'm greedy.
No, I think it's really beautiful that, in that moment of having this, like, okay, I'm ready to tap out. I'm done. And then you found this sense of to surrender to whatever, force that was coming into you to this peace. And I love that your husband was there with you and your son was there with you. And then it's like, okay, I want to, and then it's like you found these moments and then find the Ashayas and then write your books and everything else that you're doing. Like, I just think it's so amazing. And to share a personal story with you is that I wish that my brother committed suicide about 8 years ago, and I wish that he had this moment of clarity before that action happened, because I do think people kind of they zone out. I don't think they're aware of what they're doing, you know so sorry, that was off topic, but I just wanted to
No,
I
I mean
wanted
it's on topic, isn't it? Really,
it
because
really
that's what I
is.
did. I did zone out. I
Yeah.
did zone out. I mean, in some respects, am I just lucky? I don't know. I heard a story about suicide once. I think it was an article in a magazine,
Mm.
about people jumping off the Golden Gate Bridge,
Yes.
and there was a small percentage that survive it. And I remember reading it and thinking, did they survive it because they changed their mind? Because it was the article was saying everyone that survived it said the minute they let go, they changed their
Yes.
mind.
Yes.
And I'm like,
I've
but
seen
so
that
did they
myself.
survive?
Yes.
Did
Yeah.
they survive because they changed their mind? Or are they lucky and everyone changes their mind? And I just
Mm.
remember thinking that. And I actually phoned up a friend because I was just like, I had to tell her. She was
Right.
actually going to commit suicide that day, my friend. And I didn't even realize. And what am I doing? I'm going to talk to her about suicide.
Right.
But she's very much like, no, you've got to talk about it. You talking about it is what saved my life, because you told me that, and that just stopped her in her tracks. and
Right.
and so that's why I think it is important to
I think you
because this is
validate
pain.
when someone's,
This is what I'm
yeah.
talking about. It's pain. It's
Right.
not just physical, it's mental and emotional, and I think it's the mental and emotional component of physical pain that is more debilitating than actually the physical pain. That's my experience.
I 100% agree with you. And I think also people that suffer from chronic pain, it's an invisible illness. And people don't truly understand how much pain someone truly is in. And from your experience and me being a registered nurse and having a pain management background, it definitely, you can see someone who looks able-bodied, is speaking with you, everything, and they are in the most horrific pain of their life. And then they're judged. And I would imagine you probably experience having judgment and probably isolation in this journey of, now you're out of, I hope you're out of a lot of this pain, but it feels like when somebody's in that, it's got to be so horrific to not be validated for what you're going through. And also, we have so many limitations in the medical field for treating pain. I don't know if you've witnessed that yourself, but here in the United States, it's narcotics, which then you're judged as a junkie, or it's like there's not a lot of options for people that are in chronic severe pain. Is that something you've witnessed yourself, probably?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm very lucky that I couldn't tolerate morphine. It worked
Oh,
like magic the
wow.
first time, and pretty much erased most of the pain. So I was like, great. The second time I took it, I couldn't move off my bed. Like I was totally debilitated. So
Oh
I'm
my
really glad
gosh.
that happened actually. So I
Yeah.
didn't go in down that route because I've seen other people go down
Yeah.
that route, and it's just like a slippery slope to higher and higher doses, which actually stop masking the pain enough or reducing the pain
Yeah.
levels enough. And so you're still taking them in that hope, for that first time
Right.
when you take them, and it feels amazing. And so I'm very glad that that didn't work for me. And that pushed me, though. It pushed me to find other ways. And one of the ways was drumming, strangely. I remember, doing some shamanic workshops. And I bought this massive 22-inch buffalo drum, for vision quests. And, it's very hypnotic and soothing. And so I was just playing the drum, and then it was heavy because it was 22 inches. I've since
Yeah.
got a smaller one. And I just remember shifting the position. So I was now drumming on myself, and the pain across my pelvic area just went. And I'm just like, oh my God, this is amazing. And, so sound therapy can be
Sound
very helpful
therapy
for.
is amazing. Yeah.
Mm,
So, in some of your teachings, you emphasize the role of surrendering and overcoming pain. How do you define surrender, and why is it so crucial in managing both physical and emotional pain?
it's so crucial because you're stepping out of what we've learned to do. Is we've become very resistant to everything, from very early on. I think it kind of happens with emotions more than anything. Like young children have big emotions, and it's like, calm down, or don't cry, and we just like never allowed to actually just process and feel the way we're feeling. And so for me, what I've discovered through exploring with my long-term chronic pain, and then when I had broken ribs a few years ago, I then explored with the acute pain. Like, so now, like,
Right.
I'm actually damaged and broken, it was acute pain now. But I actually got to the point where I accessed a different operating mode. I've already touched on that.
Yeah.
Presence. When you are completely present, there is no voice in your head telling you how to experience your body. So we experience our body and our world through what our thoughts tell us. And it's like we're in a theater or have a virtual reality headset on, and that is how we experience life. That's a very distorted version of life. So presence actually is a very clear, pure experience of life. And so when you access that, you have a pure experience of your body. All suffering goes. There is no suffering. And ultimately there's no pain either.
Mm.
Pain doesn't tend to be something that happens in the present moment. There has to be, thinking, and you can't think and be present. You're either in the past or the future. And so you have a very friction, pressure filled experience, resisting. That's why I wrote the book about surrender as well, because that really is the crutch of it, of the whole experience. And if you're surrendering as well too, it's not to something separate from you. It's
Mm.
it's like the bigger you. You might call it God or the universe or higher self or whatever you actually want to label it. It
Right.
doesn't matter. But there's a greater experience of yourself without the mind, without any thoughts there. And that for me has been the heart of changing my experience with pain.
Wow.
So
Wow.
I'm not in I have still have the condition, yet I don't have the pet levels of pain. And I have much
Amazing.
more mobility, which is increasing and improving almost daily at the moment as I'm stripping away all the concepts and the beliefs, and the emotions and all the stress I've taken on over the years, and years of the fight and flight response, is all just releasing. And within that, a strength is returning to my body, but also a flexibility, a pliability, you know, that I
Yeah.
haven't had for a long time. And so it's fascinating and continues to fascinate me, you know, like what is possible? How, and that's including from, you know, improving eyesight and like across the
Everything.
board. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm absolutely, you know, so excited in a way actually to see what else is possible, even though currently I'm not in any pain and my life is very, very easy,
Yeah.
delightful actually. Like it's like I'm on holiday day in, day out. And like that's everybody's birthright. This is just not, I'm not special. This is something that everybody can access. And that's what I like to help people do, you know, not just talk about it, but
Right.
actually go, right, here's some techniques, use these,
Right.
and you can access that too, you know?
That was a beautiful answer, and thank you. I'm so excited. So in one of your books, Peace or Pain, you explore the concept that peace or pain is a choice. Can you elaborate on how individuals can consciously make that choice?
Yeah, so the choice whether it's peace or pain in a moment, a lot of it is you have to unpack how you're making the choice for pain because it's unconscious. We don't realize what we are doing. We don't realize there's resistance, that we've learned to resist everything. And like I said, resistance causes suffering. And a lot of what we call pain is actually just the secondary experience of suffering. It's a reaction. So that's where it becomes a choice. Once you start to recognize that, you can choose again, and then you have the pure experience of your body. And so, like when I had broken ribs, for example, I could still feel the sight of the broken ribs. It was a sensation, but it was neither good nor bad. Like it
Right.
could just be there. I didn't need it to go to experience peace. I could experience peace now, and then that's kind of like the blueprint for your body healing a lot faster.
I love that. I just love it. I'm so excited. I know someone who personally is going through a pain journey and in how she experienced an injury and just watching her go through it. It's like I'm going to have to purchase your book and give it to her because there have been moments where, and it's somebody's daughter, where she said like she doesn't want to live anymore. She can barely walk. She's now getting lidocaine infusions. Like, and she's somebody like yourself who, you know, doesn't tolerate narcotics. And not that I'm saying that that's the answer for pain, because I'm not. But I'm gonna have to get your book. I'm gonna have to get your book. Give it to her because I love it. It's a choice. I like that. It's a choice. I'm a firm believer that the body keeps the score, and that everything that happens to us gets embedded into our cellular tissue, and how you choose to move forward with that is, you know, it's going to change your life dramatically. So let me ask you this. So in your other book, Surrender is Good for the Soul, you explore concepts like the divine feminine and cosmic exploration. How do these elements play a role in achieving fulfillment in life?
Yeah, so we live in still a quite masculine orientated world. And I don't mean
Mhm.
men versus women here. I mean like the masculine
Yes.
traits, you know, like the forcefulness, the linear, logical, you know, go, 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 go. But the feminine is like the compass. So if you think of it as bad as a boat, you know, the masculine energy is the engine, and the feminine energy is the rudder. And
Mm,
of course, we're missing the rudder to direct that masculine energy in the right direction, in the direction that serves something. So for me, the feminine energy, the receptive energy, the open, nurturing energy is sorely lacking at the moment in the world. And I think when we start to look at ourselves and put ourselves first, it's not selfish to put yourself first. You can't give from a dry well. You have to look after yourself. And actually, the more you look after yourself and your own experience, the more you can give. Like I'm a very giving person, but I was kind of like, you know, when you like treading water and you really are half sinking and you're barely
yeah.
keeping your head above water. It was like that, you know, you can't give from that. I did for, you know, you kind of do. And even as a mum, you're always giving, giving, giving. But what I've done now is I nurture my own experience first and
Mm,
foremost. And then that actually allows me to give more, you know, and I think that's really, really important. So that was the feminine aspect. The cosmic exploration is the changing your relationship from the inside out. So rather than, you know, going exploring the Himalayas on the outside as a spiritual exploration, mine's an inner one. So you come back into the heart of self, into the pure experience of presence, and really cultivate that. because that is the foundation for everything, really, because you just have a completely different experience of life.
Yeah.
It's free now, it's joyful now, and it's stable. So then you can give, you can stay in that without having to do anything, because it's now a
Right.
stable state of being, rather
Yeah.
than, we are human beings, aren't we, after all, rather than human doings. But we have this horrible sense of a doer that's
Right.
responsible and has to, get it right, which is founded on the belief that there's something wrong. And so that's one of the chapters in that book about my surrender book, is
Right.
the idea that there's something wrong. And when you live by that belief, all you see is wrongness. You feel wrongness. But when you take that idea of wrongness out of any situation, even something really dysfunctional,
Right.
it becomes empowering, and you get creative. You're not now thinking about how to fix it and make it right. You're just looking at everything, brand new, fresh in this moment, and then you get really creative, and then solutions almost just come to you. Like you magnetize solutions by the creativity of letting go of there being, anything wrong in any
Right.
situation.
And you brought up such a valuable point that really for a lot of the answers that we're seeking, we need to go within. That we don't necessarily have to have an external experience to find the answers or to shift our life or to really find peace. It's all within. Was that something that you experienced in your journey of maybe looking at things from an outward experience to now going within? And I know you also teach of Ascension Techniques. I would imagine part of that is also going within. Can you maybe elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah. So Ascension is a teaching. It's the teaching of the one. And so it's an inward journey.
Yeah.
Um, and I kind of relate sometimes awareness to, like eyesight. In order to have a clear point of focus with your eyesight, you need a strong peripheral vision. And it's the
Mm,
same with awareness. In order to have a clear focus in this moment, to know what serves best and what doesn't serve best, and to have that peace, you need a strong peripheral awareness. And so it's an inner journey, and when you cultivate that inner state of being, it mirrors on the outside. So, like, to try and change stuff on the outside, it's only ever going to be, everything's changing. It's flux and change. You sort something out, and then it goes wrong over here, and you sort that out, and it goes, and you're forever doing that. Whereas if you nurture your inner state, then the outer state matches it. So it's sustainable, it's easy. And for me, the Ascension techniques have been amazing, because that's what they do, is they're mechanical techniques, and they're just like, bloop, just bring your attention back inwards. So you haven't got to, try to be still, try to be present. It's just
right.
like, it just keeps doing it, dup, 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 and rinse and repeat. And then it's like, going to the gym, but for awareness, or an
Right.
awareness muscle. And
I
and then
love
and
it.
then and then it gets really strong, and then you stay here, you stay present.
I love it. I love that. So, how has your background as a mother, sister, wife, and lover of art and nature influenced your approach to spirituality and meditation?
Well, creativity is everything, and again, the source of creativity is within. But for me, I think it's that joy for living again.
Mm,
Like I've always loved reading books, and gardening was something that I developed actually over time. I think I resisted it for a while because my mum loved gardening, and you know how you just never, you just don't want to end up like your
I am
mum.
towards my sister. I'm like, oh, you're a professional gardener. Mm,
But it's so funny. But that's what I started to recognize from journeying within, and really getting to know myself, is that, like, I don't have to cut off my nose to spite my face. I
mm,
can actually do the things I love doing, and not try and avoid something, because it reminds me of, something, the controlling element of parents,
yeah,
and then I became a parent, and I became controlling, and it's just like, oh no, I swore I never would. And but it's kind of unpacks that relationship dynamic that you
mm,
kind of get locked into. It's like a tangled web, isn't it?
right,
And presence enables you to kind of dismantle all of that, to see beyond it. It's like it's a hologram. It's not as
right.
real as it appears to be. And so everything just gets really clear. And so you step out of those patterns, so you don't end up like your parents, not in a good way or a bad way even,
You want
but
to be
you
your own
just
individual.
really, you just get to be yourself, because
Right.
like you don't want to be like your parents. They're not really being themselves. They're actually, they're just being their learned habits and behaviors. And so,
Mhm.
yeah, that's what you don't want. And that's what Ascension's given me, the ability to step out of that. So I'm free to be me. And then it's just so, it's so liberating
Right.
and so joyful. And I just want other people to know that.
Mhm.
Like I always kind of used to hate it when people used to say, "Oh, I'm blissed out," because it kind of sounded a little bit like almost happy clappy, like not fake as such, but
Mm.
not there wasn't a tangible, rock solid experience that I could
Right.
hear and see in the people
Right.
talking like that. Whereas this for me is like a very quiet joy, you know, a very peaceful joy, but one that's exciting and enlivening. And yeah, who wouldn't want that?
I love that. That's a beautiful answer. Before I ask you the last question, if anyone's interested in learning more about you, where is the best place for them to go to?
Yeah, so probably my website, which is boundless-meditation.co.uk.
Love
And
it.
there are links there to my YouTube channel, which is just Meera Ishaya, if you want to look up that, because I've got quite a lot of video shorts that I'm releasing each week and some guided meditations. And there's also a Peace or Pain Facebook group, but you can kind of find all of the links for that on my website, so that you can actually, hear more, find out more, get my books if you want to buy a
Right.
copy. The workbook and guide journal to go with my first books, been published now since
Nice.
since I
Yes.
sent that information to you, so that's available on Amazon as well.
I love that. So, as someone who's been featured in many podcasts and created a substantial online presence, what have you found to be most effective way to connect with and inspire your audience?
Just to be real, actually. It's like the video shorts I've been recording. I do record them as opposed to do lives, but I
Right.
record them, and however they turn out is what goes out. So for
I
me,
love that.
I don't want a polished image. It just doesn't connect
Hmm.
with me. So like if it doesn't make sense to me, it doesn't feel heartfelt to me, then I can't see how that's going to be heartfelt to anyone else. And so I think for me, rather than just trying to sell yourself, you just be yourself,
Yeah.
and then just be visible. So yeah, that's for me.
I like that.
what,
Being
what
your
I've been
authentic
doing.
version of yourself. Being okay
Yeah.
to be yourself. I love that. That's a great answer. Mira, thank you so much for coming to Spiritual Spotlight series. It honestly was a pleasure to speak with you today. Thank you so much.